we're going to dive into our Q&A session live with the Duo founding team here. And I'm going to go ahead and moderate a little bit today. So if you have a question and you want to go ahead and ask it, just on Discord, right click on my name and send me a message. Or actually just, left click, regular click on my name, send me a message, and just give me like a wave or something, and I will unmute you, and then you can go ahead and ask your question. But for starters, Aussie Ginger Snap, our founder, Jason, you want to go ahead and just give us a little bit of a summary about Duo and where we're at, what we're working on, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. I think the whole vision and purpose behind Duo revolves around kind of our core belief and mission, which is to accelerate the adoption of crypto. And in order to do that, crypto needs to be easy and approachable and fun. And that's really where Duo kind of was born from, is this idea of being able to help people connect with a community of gamers. I think that's something that's core to each one of us, certainly myself, and be able to play something that is, in a way, a really easy way to learn about crypto. What's a wallet? How do you keep these NFT things? Why are they valuable? How come, it's an image, but it has some utility. It has some purpose within a game. And so a lot of it is this education around gaming and being able to have some real world value, whether that's, buying a coffee from in-game earnings, or maybe even being able to pay your rent someday from it. So that's kind of the vision behind Duo, is something fun, something that helps educate people in the space of crypto, and then just getting more people decentralized.
Yes. Awesome. So go ahead and walk us through kind of your vision for what Duo looks like in the coming months, so that we can kind of all get on the same page with where Duo is headed.
Yeah, well, I think to go down that track, it would be worth noting where we started. So it started kind of off of this hackathon idea of, can we no-code something fairly quickly and get it in front of people and show them what's possible. And Cardano actually makes that fairly easy, especially the way that they handle NFTs even prior to smart contracts. And I was going through the Plutus Pioneer program and trying to figure out more about why NFTs are important and what that looks like. And so launching NFTs and using that as game pieces, or a way to play the game in a very quick and dirty, if you will, example within Discord in our pre-alpha gameplay. It's this idea of testing and iterating on things that we think might work, what game mechanics are fun, how can we improve them and expand them, but also at the same time, what don't we know yet? And, future versions of us are smarter than our current selves. And so how do we get to that point? By iterating often. And so really the next steps for us, obviously, after we get through the Christmas holidays and into the new year, Ben and I are going to stay in front of a whiteboard and really figure out how to maximize the game mechanics that we've seen working in pre-alpha, continue to test them through our Discord bot, as well as through some community game nights that I know we're going to be working on, but really to understand, how does that develop out into a full game? Something that you can load up on a web page or pull up on your phone and play with other people around the world. What are the core game mechanics that are important to get right? And then what are the tokenomics to incentivize and expand the player base to further our mission of decentralizing people and accelerating the adoption of crypto? So there's a lot of work to do. And to be honest, there's a lot of work that we don't know that needs to be done right now, but I'm sure we'll figure it out.
I want to go ahead and open the floor up for our people here to have questions. So if you have questions, and you want to go ahead and ask those, we have some time to just dive in and answer. One of the things that is really important to us here at Duo.
And he's gone. And he's back.
Yeah, I don't know where I went for a second. Discord decided to update in the middle of our AMA session. So anyway, where I was, I think, was that, hey, we want to be really transparent. We want to make sure that we're available to answer your guys' questions, so that everybody knows kind of where Duo is at and where we're headed and what our plans are, and just transparency is the best policy. So if you have a question, just go ahead and shoot me like a wave DM or something like that, and I will make sure I get you queued up to ask that. But in the meantime, let's talk a little bit about being part of the Duo community. So Jason, if I'm a community member, I've been playing Duo, what is the best thing I can do to help Duo grow right now?
I think one of the things that we want to test a little bit longer, but ultimately we'll close down, is this idea of write-in gameplay. So writing into the pre-alpha, we wanted to do it so that people who couldn't afford or weren't able to get cards out of our Genesis deck could participate. So if you've got a friend or if you've got somebody who's funny, that you want to, laugh with, make some jokes with, have them come join the pre-alpha gameplay and just write in some funny responses. It's a really low lift way to get involved, and it gives us good feedback because that's a mechanic that we might want to work with in some way in the future. But ultimately, we have enough cards and enough people with cards that we can focus in on those existing cards for gameplay. So I think that's an easy way to get involved. But ultimately, it's give us feedback. What do you like? What do you not like? We've had almost 60 days now of consecutive gameplay.
60
So
days, yeah.
right on the
That's
dot.
That's a lot of gameplay. That's a lot of rewards going out. Man, it's been a good time, and we have seen some great write-ins. Like personally, I love seeing all the clever things that people come up with to write in some of these prompts. They're knee slappers for sure, right?
I think I could just add on there a little bit to what he said and one of the first questions as well. We're about building in Duo. One of our big things is building long-term value. So it's not just rushing a product to the market, not just trying to see, well, can we get this drop out as soon as possible to maximize our ADA profit? And that presents a number of engineering challenges as well for us because we're really like some of the first in this space to figure out what does value-added NFT gaming look like. Forget the idea of just having to own a game, but what does it look like to take your ownership of a game and transform it into value invested and the value returned? And what does it look like from a governance point of view? Which is also why we've got such a heavy focus on the tokenomics model to try and prevent some of the problems that have happened with one or two of the other games out there. I don't want to name any, but I think those who know the NFT gaming space know there are some challenges that we only figure out once we get there. So that's one of our key focuses, and going forward into the new year as well, we're doing a lot of work there, and a lot of our catalyst proposals are also focused around that.
So Ben, can you give us just a sliver of kind of this tokenomics thing that we've been working through? What are some of the details there when it comes to the tokenomics of Duo and how you envision? Obviously, this is all pre-alpha still. There's a lot of development work to be done, but some of the things that you're kind of envisioning for that model that you're talking about.
Well, one of the things we're sort of heavily going to get focused in on a bit is to capture a lot of time and investment in the mathematics side of it. So instead of just creating a token that we spool out quickly or a dual token system, what does the scalability look like? Can we actually run a couple of simulations from an academic viewpoint to look at, well, what does it scale? How does it work? How does it develop? So that's where a lot of our attention is focused now. There is some good research that has been done on two token systems. I don't want to, make a promise that we're going to use a two token system, but there's some good research on that, some good benefits. And as Cardano itself develops, a lot of more research is coming out of IOHK and IOG's community, which helps to design the incentive structures and the game theoretic models which would ultimately govern a tokenomics model. That's a complex answer to a short question.
That's all right. Sometimes it's good to get in a little deep. Jason, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, I know commonly it's when you look at economics, it's how do people take the goods and services and the value that they have and kind of use it in the world. And with tokenomics, it's almost like, how do you want a game to grow? How do you want this community to grow? And then building the tools behind the scenes to support that. So to build the token structure, and we already have 2 types of NFTs, each with specific gameplay parameters and mechanics that they'll be involved with or not involved with. So there's like the game itself. And then on top of that is like the token layer. So how do we incentivize players both in a passive game type as well as an active game type? So the color cards being very active, right? You're promoting like your color card should be the winner, right? So you're kind of selling that as the winner. And so that could be really complex and very advanced, and maybe we get there. Or it could be just very simple, right? So can you only use cards that you have? Can you create cards, or can you suggest card punchlines to be minted? Like what does all of that look like? And
kind of similar to that write-in model that you're talking about.
Yeah. So what's a write-in model look like in a full game? And then how do you scale that beyond, several hundred, several thousand, several 100,000 players, ultimately to be able to support, potentially millions of people around the world playing a game? Because for many of us who are in the ecosystem and the crypto community today, we know that we're looking at a 10x increase in user base over the next 2 to 3 years. So while it might feel outlandish to think about millions of people playing any game today in the NFT space, 2 to 3 years from now isn't far away, and there could be a lot more people picking up games.
Talking about that model, and I don't know kind of how much detail you want to get into with that, but one of the concerns that has been raised by people is this idea of how do we get new cards into the system? Does Duo have a plan for that moving forward, and what does that look like as more people join this game, knowing that our Genesis deck is limited to that 50,000 card deck? So what happens beyond that?
Well, there's 2 elements here. One is we want to keep the community involved and active, and ultimately we don't want to take a big game publisher approach and say we'll create all the content and sell it to our community. We actually want our community and our game players, our players specifically, to be able to create that into a marketplace. So whereas we may curate some prompts, maybe not all of them even, and allow players to unlock or bring them into the game in a very predictable and controlled manner, that will allow us to scale at the right rate so that we're not always on fire and keeping servers online and whatnot. But it'll allow us to keep a consistent game play experience while benefiting and rewarding our players who are unlocking and creating that value. So as they're adding content into the marketplace, in the economic model, they're the producer. So they're the one receiving that payment or that value back to themselves, instead of us being kind of the primary gatekeeper of DLC content and season passes and all of that stuff. So we're moving away from that traditional gaming model.
Which is good for the gamer because that captures the value for them instead of paying the studio off who knows where, right? I think that's kind of the big appeal of this whole idea of like NFT gaming, decentralized gaming.
Well, and honestly too, like it pulls responsibility off of us in a way, because we're not the mechanism for creating that value into the marketplace. So there's actually a little bit more responsibility on the players, because if they want the ecosystem to grow, if they want the game and the community to grow, they have to participate. And it is a little bit different, and so it's maybe less hand-holding than traditional gaming titles, but it does allow for the player to recapture some of that ownership and sovereignty over their own game content, as well as their place in the market, right? So their ability to help bring others into the game.
Perfect. I think we have a question here. So they just sent it to me here. So, what are the best first steps to get into Duo? Should I buy color cards, black cards? What's the best strategy? Is the question.
Ooh, the best strategy. I mean, right now, the three of us are kind of picking the winner. So, I guess figure out how to make us laugh is the best strategy if you want to earn something. No, I think a great. Say what?
Dox us.
Yeah, dox us. Yeah, tech jokes, witty dad humor really gets me going. No, I think reading through the pre-alpha gameplay, and honestly, a great place to start with some write-ins. Some spend a little time, think about a funny angle on the joke, and try with some write-ins. I don't want the first place that people feel like they have to start is to spend something. But I will say it is pretty fun to unlock a pack of color cards and figure out what you have to work with, and then choose every day. It's like, okay, what's coming tomorrow? I don't know, but this would be a great one for today. And so if you've ever played any of these card games that are similar to Duo, it's like, do I really want to use it on this one? Because I don't know what other people have or what they're going to use today. And that's part of the fun. It's part of the challenge of the strategy of when you use something and when you hold on it or don't use it.
So I want to follow up there. What is kind of the role of the black cards within our game ecosystem? And right now, maybe that might be a little more limited, but what do you see as kind of that role going forward and ultimately once we roll out the full Duo game?
So the role of the black cards is almost like the game maker or the game picker, right? So they're the ones who choose who wins the pot from the color card side. So a simple round, at least the way that we're envisioning it now, is a group of color card players would all join a lobby. They would have several black cards to pick from, and they would vote on those black cards. And it's likely they're not all going to pick the same card. So weighted dice rolls, and if 6 people have chosen this black card and only 4 have chosen this other one, either one could still win, but it's more likely the one that has 6 votes will win. And that's the one that gets played. So the owner of that black card is responsible for closing that match. And these matches will run pretty quickly. But the black card owner is the one who gets to pick the winner. And the color cards, each color card has some stake that they put into each match, and so they'll place in a token, or maybe it's more tokens. We don't have the final numbers on that yet, but they'll place a token into play, and then whoever wins gets kind of that whole pot back out. So color cards are kind of the high risk, high reward. You have to put something up, but you could also win the whole thing back from all the other color card players. And then the black card owner is incentivized by, they really just have to pick winners, close out rounds, and the network itself releases new tokens into the system through that mechanism, at least the way we have it mapped out now. So that allows us to tweak how fast new tokens come into the entire supply, but it rewards the black card holders who are playing a more passive game type, but they're also in control of who's winning. So
they're almost like the governance card of our whole system.
kind of, in a way, it's a little bit more like, I would call it the more investing card. Like you almost buy it like a piece of property, and then people want to like play on your property all the time. And then over time, you just accumulate rewards based off the number of people who are playing on that. So if you think about this scaling out over 10,000 matches an hour, right? Like if you're thousands of players around the world and you're running multiple matches an hour, your card could be picked a lot, especially if it's in game and then freed up and then chosen again and freed up and chosen again and freed up. So if you have a really popular black card, it could be extremely valuable because of the amount of passive token rewards that you're receiving out of that.
I think that's a better way of putting it, probably. So glad you're here to clean that up. So with Duo being played on Discord, we're kind of in this rough state, like you said, no code state of gameplay. Can you give us a little bit of your envisioned roadmap for Duo going forward? Obviously, this NFT game is not intended to be played on Discord forever. So,
yeah, well, I mean, Discord is a fun way to engage with other people in the crypto community. I mean, it's frustrating sometimes because it's just like a solid stream. It's basically like the Facebook feed way back when. So it's kind of hard to find things. However, it's a fun place to engage with community, and we know it's what a lot of people use. And so we want to continue multiplying what we've created in the pre-alpha gameplay and allow more black card owners to have their black card played every day. So right now it's kind of like a single thread. And we want to hyper-thread it. We want to spread that out. Likely that's going to be through community partnerships and Discord bots that allow and manage gameplay and maybe record points and leaderboards across multiple servers, but also would allow you as a color card player to play your cards in more than one channel. So now you have a higher chance of winning something every single day. So that's kind of what we're looking at next. I think coming up, depending on how far we want to go down this track, we're going to have a community game night. And that'll be a good pilot for what that might look like.
Yes, definitely want to hear more about that in a second. We got another question here. This is a little bit more of a technicality about the actual NFTs themselves. We have a question asking, what do the numbers at the bottom of the NFTs signify, and what's the significance that those play? Ben, do you want to go ahead and answer this one?
Yeah, well, we've got a pretty decent statistics-based rarity model. So there's different levels of rarity spread out, but there's different copies of the same content. So if you look at a color card, for example, or a black card, the content on that card, so the actual phrase, there are multiple copies of it. And the way we've structured it currently is there are up to 45 copies of the color cards, the content, and up to 9 copies of the black cards. But the rarity can differ, the actual look of the card can differ slightly. It just means that in the entirety of the existence of the game, there are so many of that content type, and the number signifies which one you have. So you think of it as a serial number.
Yeah. So it's really to identify one copy of a piece of content versus another copy of a piece of content. Because with NFTs in a gaming sense, you might have, like an iron sword, but it might be iron sword number 1 or iron sword number 99. They're different technically because, maybe one player can only own one sword, so they have some utility, but it's a little bit different than a piece of art. And I know people get a little worried or scared when they hear a copy of something within the NFT space. But in this sense, you have to remember, if we're talking about thousands of games per hour across the world, 45 cards being distributed across that, even for like a single phrase, is actually a very small set of game pieces or game actions that are happening. And then we also want to reward people who are skilled with a phrase. So there's this element of long-term competitive gaming where if Ben is just really good at playing a certain type of humor, a certain type of punchline, and I'm terrible at it, I should pick the wrong matches to play it in, he could actually have that same content with a higher win rate over time. So his number 4 of 45 might beat out my number 1 of 45 because he's just a more skilled player. So there's nuances and long-term effects of that being tracked from win rates and player matching, that kind of thing.
And that brings up a good point about the humor types too. We've got 8 different humor types in the game, and I think there's little emojis for all of them in our Discord server right now too, so you can kind of see what different colors mean. But those cards are actually categorized by humor type, which creates a new level of tracking too, of seeing like eventually, what black card owner, only picks dark humor if that's the thing that they're really into. And so maybe that, like, well, my cringe humor is maybe a better fit for the card, but I have a dark humor card that also fits. Kind of is an interesting nuance in the gameplay, I think, that can make Duo really unique in and of itself. So
I don't know, Ben. Do you think we're going to end up creating that kind of data analytics tool in our system first, or do you think a community member is going to end up doing that?
I think the incentive is definitely there for a community member to come in. Because I think
it's going to happen.
One of the valuable things of Duo is sort of the model that we have now, and it was one of the thoughts initially in doing it that way, is we want to make it valuable for someone climbing in now, valuable for someone that climbed in yesterday, and valuable for someone that got in 3 weeks ago or 3 years ago or 3 months ago. And combining, rarity distribution plus content distribution plus this idea of there's multiple copies that can have different performance plus the tokenomics model really gives lots of people a very good opportunity to get that. Just pegging it to one single attribute, like let's say for example how rare your NFT were. If you got a whole wallet of rare NFTs, you would be biased way more versus a player who doesn't have rare NFTs. So the whole game is sort of created to be rare but fair. So it's all about, one of the focuses it's getting people into crypto, getting them to stay in crypto and generate long-term value. So it's a true play-to-earn model.
Well, can you imagine somebody who ends up collecting all 45 of a specific card type? Like tracks it down, finds all 45 of those wallet owners, like ends up making offers like, hey, I want to buy your card. I want to buy your card. Because I mean,
we got to give out a reward for that. I feel like that's great.
It's like what happens when you unlock all 45 of a specific color card and can prove that. But I mean, there's really interesting long-term impacts that I think we're aware of, but I'm not sure quite how we know how to facilitate it yet. Because there is a big decision of like what's on-chain, like what's an on-chain action, what's on-chain data that happens, and what's off-chain. So like what do we reference on-chain and use the NFTs for provenance and ownership and that kind of identification. But we also don't need the expense of running on-chain transactions for anybody in our system if we can manage that off-chain in a way that supports all the kind of core trustless properties of blockchain decentralized gaming. And figuring out how every NFT, as it gets played, and maybe it wins around, like that actually increases the base value of that NFT, because now you can track that data point back into a market and you can say, well, this card has won 76% of the games it's been played in. And that happens to be 428 games that it's won. But maybe there's a card that has never been played. And so is there this rarity, or is this value that people put on cards that have never been played before? Because if it's never been played before and it has a win rate of null, but if it gets played once and has a win rate of 100, like it's either going to win or lose that round. So if it ends up having a win rate of 100, maybe that's an incredibly valuable card. And so I know that we've kind of talked about this idea of an unlocked pack. Like, what does it look like to unlock or start to use this game piece for the first time? Maybe there's collector value. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a bunch of nothing.
Well, on that note, we have a question here about the Duo card sales. If I have a card that I want to sell, what does that look like? Will I be able to sell Duo NFTs on other marketplaces, or trade them within game? Like, what's the structure look like for that?
Yes, absolutely. So, in fact, let me check. I don't think I've gotten an update from the team over at the JPEG store, but that was one of the areas we were looking at listing first. We tried going through CNFT, but they've just been inundated with requests for projects launching. And I know they just changed up their verification process. So maybe we'll go through and resubmit to cnft.io. But yeah, we do want people to be able to sell the cards in the secondary marketplaces. And if they're looking to do escrow-based selling, I'm sure that we can help out with that, to help just transfer from one person to one of our members here on the Duo team, and then take the other card and then swap them. Those escrow services, I know a lot of communities provide and do, and we'd be interested in helping facilitate that if anyone wants.
Awesome. Well, I know we are coming up on time here in a little bit. So if you guys do have any last-minute questions that you want to get in, shoot them my way. I'll make sure that we get them in here. Tell me more about the community game night. I've been waiting all night to ask you this question. Tell us about the community game night that's coming up, and kind of a few sneak peek details about that.
Well, it's either going to be the most fun we've ever had gaming together with Duo, or it's going to be dog's breakfast and just be a dumpster fire. So one of the two. It's going to go one way or another. The general idea, yeah. Let's hope the first. Let's hope we have a lot of fun and laugh. The general idea is we want to incorporate multiple communities around the entire Cardano ecosystem. This is stake pool operators, maybe some YouTube channels, some people who are just sharing about this whole ecosystem. We want to bring them in to run almost like a channel, or be a host of a channel that runs gameplay, similar to pre-alpha. We've made some improvements to our bot so we can run that faster. People can see their cards, they can play them, and then be able to do kind of this live game night experience where it's more than just open a channel, post a thing, haha, and then move on. So something where rounds are happening much quicker, where we can do multiple rounds within kind of our game night time slot, and just learn a little bit more than what we have. It's the iterative design of the game. So how do we do more than just one round a day? How do we do several rounds an hour with 5 concurrent streams of rounds happening, with 5 different flavors of hosts and 5 different directions? So that's where we're going to start. It's going to be somewhat limited in capacity. We don't want to overload each kind of room. So there'll be a limit on how many people can play for that game night. But if you're playing in the Duo pre-alpha gameplay channel, especially if you're winning, you have a high chance of being invited or coming and participating in that night.
All right, thanks for the details. I am excited for that. It's going to be so much fun to host and to get to see all of the awesome card combos happen in real time, and lots of exciting opportunities for earning more rewards with our Duo cards. So
Which room is going to be the whiskey room? One of the
wherever
rooms.
I am, I don't know, but I'm
Take a
picking that one
shot
up.
every time. Take a shot every time somebody plays a red card.
or just every time you win.
What?
These are
Yeah.
dangerous
I guess
waters.
There's not that many red cards that exist, especially in people's wallets right now. So it's kind of
That's true.
safe. But you could get the one or two that just come in, and just boom, 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 just throwing red cards down.
Yeah.
We've got another question here from one of the community members asking us if we could circle back around real quick to our tokenomic avenues that we're currently exploring and have explored. Ben or Jason, whoever want to take lead on that one.
Well, Ben, maybe you can talk a little bit about this idea that we have between. I know one of the things that we've talked about is exploring basal value and how do you protect a basal value of tokens or some store value, rebasing things like Ohm, Olympus DAO, what they do, or other rebasing mechanics, but also how do you give a community the ability to grow the number of players, right? So how do you continue to grow and release new tokens into a growing market cap without just blowing everything up?
Well, there are a number of ways to approach this, and once you sort of get into the game theory of combining it with the game as well, it becomes pretty interesting, and that's why we've put in a pretty big proposal for Catalyst as well to really be thorough and research this properly, because there are a number of features of existing tokenomic models which have proved valuable, and a number which have not proved valuable. You know, some of them out there, the two token system has proved to be decent, where you sort of farm one token and exchange it for a second one, but then you have this problem of basal value being lost. Like the onboarding cost becomes too expensive. Some of the other models as well, like the Olympus DAO model, for example, very good at capturing long-term value, but what does that look like for a player driving a lot of transactions quickly? So we haven't pegged down a full thing yet, and we're busy with a full-on like research initiative into that. So I don't want to make a promise and say we're looking at this or that or this yet, because really it's at this point it's open. We're looking at what is it that we can do to preserve basal value, meaning that the token you earn today grows as the game grows, and obviously loses if the game loses, but also grows in a way that for new players it's not too difficult to come on board, because ultimately then it's losing value. I mean, if your token is worth in US dollars, if that's a bad equation to make, but let's say it costs you $10 to get on today, and it costs someone new $1,000 to get on in a month's time, that's going to hamper the growth of your tokens that you have, because less people are coming on board, so the system is going to stagnate then. And that's also one of the things we don't want to do. So I know it's a very vague answer, and I know it's not necessarily specific down to saying, yes, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're mapping it out. But our focus is to create long-term value that is transactional as well, but that also preserves basal value and that also onboards people quickly.
Right. Well, and I think part of it could even be brought back to this idea in any game outside of the like real world transfer from tokens into like dollars, for example. Like if I'm playing Halo Infinite or League of Legends or Star Citizen, it's my time that ends up going into the game. Like that's my input as a player. And the time that I put into the game can either be valuable to just myself, like if it's a single player campaign, for example, it can be valuable to myself and others. It could be valuable to others but detrimental to myself, or vice versa, or it could be detrimental to everybody. So how do you reward that primary input from players through each game mechanic. So this is the mechanism for farming NFTs or tokens and selling them out, right? Like, what's the value add for the individual and what's the value add for the other players in the network? And so I think the next step for us is really locking in version 1 of our game. What are the core game mechanics that we're building the rest of our tokenomics around? Because when we have the game mechanics, we'll be able to run game theory models on each decision that the agents or the actors have to make within the game. And then we can say, all right, to grow in a sustainable way for us as a team, this is how we need to grow. And this is how we need to prepare infrastructure to grow once we hit these major milestones. And then that's where we'll start to really know how the tokenomics and then where specifically we need to be able to tweak the way that rewards are released into the system or exchanged back into the treasury for the rest of the players to utilize.
And to sort of add on there as well, this whole system and this whole space is very community oriented. So a lot of our research, because we're spending so much time to formally research this, a lot of our findings are going to be made available to the community. And that's something, if anyone's read our Catalyst proposals, that's something we're making, we're going to be making available. How are we finding, what are the math models, and how can we help future developers and future engineers come on board and focus on creating NFT-enabled games quickly versus running into the same problems again and again.
Right.
And I think that's the important thing right there that you said, is that we're not just trying to build Duo, right? Duo is exciting, but we want to be able to help the other developers in this space, right? With a successful model that we can say, hey, look, we've done the math, we know this works, like we've proven it. And so we're definitely going to be really transparent about all of that token systems and economic structure that we develop as we develop it to the community. So yeah, just a lot of research right now, digging in math models, running simulations on supercomputers and all of the fun stuff that comes with that to try to figure out how different systems might affect our community. So,
and Jacob's like, when are we going to have a game?
Get the game out! I want to play now!
We have one. It's called pre-alpha.
Well, all of this stuff takes a lot of time to work through and develop correctly, which is, I think, one of the things that's just been a reoccurring theme tonight is this idea of like, hey, we're not building fast, we're building right. So we're not concerned with, blowing up, selling a bunch of NFTs, and then, taking a nice trip to Hawaii. We want to really work to make sure that this thing is built right.
Well, and if you look at like the strongest trees in the forest are the ones with deep roots, right? They're the ones that have learned from, I shouldn't grow my roots over here because that's kind of rocky, nasty soil. Like, I'm healthier if I go deep and grow wide. And so we didn't want to focus on like building the next Skyrim. Like, hey, Unity 5 looks awesome. Like, let's go in and like build this really beautiful game. And then, oh crap, now we have to slap some NFTs in there somewhere and ship it. We didn't want to do that because all of the time and the value goes into kind of the traditional game modeling itself. Versus here, we want to look at game systems that are brand new. And some people have been running games on these kind of mechanisms and these models on other blockchains. And the native blockchain, the layer 1 solution, is broken or unscalable, or it gets really expensive for new players to come in. And so there's just such a high risk reward variable for brand new players. That actually goes against our core message in a way, because somebody brand new to crypto comes in and buys in heavy into a game, and then the market just bottoms out on them and they panic and sell, their first taste of crypto is a bad one. Do you think that person's going to stick around? Probably not. So I think even exploring ways to play Duo with NFTs at next to zero cost is a really interesting mechanic to explore.
I agree. I love it. Thanks so much for the clarification on that. Our community member said thank you. So glad
Thank
we
you for
got that.
coming.
Yeah, glad we got that cleared up. Is there any other final things that you want to say in conclusion as we're going to wrap this AMA session up? That
Well, I
you
think
want to tell
I
our community?
Yeah, I hope everyone has a fantastic holiday season. I hope that you enjoy time with family, enjoy time playing Duo. We'd love to see you throw some funny jokes in, some funny punchlines, or even show us your black cards that you've minted, and we'll get them into gameplay. But honestly, it is so fun to build this with people all over the place. I see people in Discord, and I don't know who they are. And then I end up talking to them in real life or bumping into them. That, oh, I'm so and so in Discord. I'm like, I wouldn't have known. I think that is just a fun nuance to this whole space. Is you really never know who you're talking to, and it does force you to be a little bit more responsible and kind as a human being. And I love that. And I've met so many kind people in this community. So thank you. Thank you for being part of the Duo community. Invite your other kind and lovely friends, and
Don't invite the bad friends, right?
Yeah, just leave them out. If they're just gonna come and cause problems, I don't want to be staying up all night putting out fires. So
invite your funny, kind, Cardano loving friends.
there you go.
All right.
Well, thank you, Jacob, for being a great moderator. You are excellent, my man.
It was a blast. Love always getting to chat with y'all. Love our community here. It's so fun to watch this place grow and see people kind of coming into their own with this NFT gaming space. There are so many people playing in pre-alpha that this like buying Duo cards was like the first NFT they ever bought. I know that for a fact, and that is so cool to witness these players that are like, okay, well, like what do I do now? Like, how do I do that? So we want to help cultivate that community. As we said at the very beginning, a big part of this is getting people into crypto, getting people into NFTs through gaming. So if there are suggestions that you have or ideas on how we can make that process easier, or just kind of continue to build this culture and this community, we'd love to hear them. We have channels in Discord for suggestions, or you can always message, I think, any of the three of us on Discord. We'd love to chat with you. So excited to continue seeing those write-ins, and we will continue to work on the back end here and then get more information out about some of the upcoming events, the catalyst proposals, our structures as we develop them, and keep you guys all up to date. So with that, I think that's a wrap on our Q&A session. Thanks to all of our community members for coming out and supporting us, and we will see you all over in the pre-alpha channel, right?
Yeah, see you there.
Right.
Let us know what you think of the new bot. Ben did some great work on it.
Yeah, check out the viewer bot. You've got to rerun your cards if you ran them earlier, and it's way cool.
I know what we should do, Jacob. 2 last things. 1, before the new year, we have to get the community to name the bot, because Duo Viewer Bot is a lame name.
Yeah, I agree.
And 2, guys, I have this book. P is for pterodactyl. We need to include this somehow in our game coming up. It's basically the alphabet for dads who really want to screw with their kids.
All right. Well, we'll figure out a way to work it in.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you all so much. We'll talk to you later.